Hello everybody, I hope y'all are doing well. Today is 3/3/2026. The time is roughly 9:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. I have y'all looking at EMSC, and these are the 5.0 and greater earthquakes for today. There has been a 5.0 in northeast of Taiwan. It was 10 kilometers deep. There was a 5.1 east of Kuril Islands. It was 42 kilometers deep. There was a 6.2 in Simul, Indonesia, and it was 15 kilometers deep. There was a 5.2 Rat Islands, Aleutian Islands, and it was 14 kilometers deep. There was a 5.3 Auckland Islands, New Zealand region, and it was 10 kilometers deep. We will go and pull up GeoNet, and we will look at all of the earthquakes that have occurred today on GeoNet. So I want to look at all. That includes deleted. So I'm looking to see where the 5.2 is that occurred. And it shows that it was a 5.6, 115 kilometers south of Snares Island. If that is the same earthquake, hang on. Oops, let's go back over here. So it was Auckland Islands, New Zealand region. EMSC has it as a 5.3. And GeoNet has this earthquake as a 5.6. So this one here was 33 kilometers deep. We are going to look at these on our Google Earth. So here's the 5.0 in Taiwan. Then I'm going to give you a whole lot more information regarding all the earthquakes around the world for today. So this is the 5.0 northeast of Taiwan at 10 kilometers deep. This was occurring near the Okinawa Trough. The next earthquake was a 5.1 east of Kuril Islands. This one is occurring near Russia, Kuril Islands, and it's the North American plate right here, which is a convergent boundary. Then we had a 6.2 in Sinabang, Indonesia, and EMSC has it as 15 kilometers deep, and it was occurring on a transform boundary. We had a 5.2 Rat Islands, Aleutian Islands. It was 14 kilometers deep, and this is next to Volcano Builder, and this is a stratovolcano. The next earthquake was a 5.3, which is also a 5.6, going by New Zealand. Offland here at 10 kilometers in depth. So let's go to other parts of the world here, and we will start with an update for the largest earthquakes that have occurred, and then we will move on to around the world. So as we look, today has seen moderate global seismic activity, highlighted by a significant magnitude 6.1 earthquake in Indonesia and a series of notable tremors around the Pacific Ring of Fire. And hang on a second, I want to use something else so we can look at these earthquakes. Let's see, which one do I want to use? Let's see this one here. We can see they're trying to say there was a 4.9 here. They do not show the other earthquake offland here. So that one is not showing on here. Let's see, is it over here? Nope, that is not over there either. Interesting, right? Okay, so today was highlighted by a significant magnitude 6.1 earthquake in Indonesia and a series of notable tremors across the Pacific Ring of Fire. Major earthquakes that were 5.0 and greater were a 6.1 in Sinabang, Indonesia, a 5.6 Miyakojima, Japan region. It was 10 kilometers deep. 5.3 Bluff, New Zealand. It was 10 kilometers deep. A 5.3 Attu station, Alaska. It was 10 kilometers deep. A 5.1 Overnovsky, Russia. It was 41.4 kilometers deep. And a 5.0 in Harare, Japan. It was 10 kilometers deep. So as we move forward here, Sinabang, Indonesia, which had the 6.1, and we will go back to our Google Earth here. So we're going to go to Sinabang, Indonesia, which is Semulia, Indonesia. The most powerful quake of the day struck 65 kilometers southeast of Sinabang in the Aceh province. This area is tectonically complex, sitting on the Sunda megathrust, where the Indo-Australian plate subducts beneath the Sunda plate. While the magnitude was significant, the estimated population exposure within the immediate 100 kilometers radius was low, and no immediate reports of any tsunami were issued. In Japan, let's go to Japan. See if we can find Japan. Let's go Japan. We're going to Japan. Why'd that say it couldn't find Japan? What? You can't find Japan? Please, find Japan. Couldn't understand location. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so we're going to go to the Ryukyu Islands. Ryukyu Islands, Japan. Bet you can find that one. Okay, so near the East China Sea, near the Ryukyu Islands, has been particularly active. Let's back out here because I got this a little too close. Okay, so, all right. A magnitude 5.6 followed by several 4.9 and 5.0 magnitude events. This cluster of activity reflects the ongoing crustal deformation as the Philippine Sea Plate moves beneath the Eurasian Plate. In Alaska, let's go to Alaska. Whee! Okay, here we go with Alaska over here. A magnitude 5.3 earthquake occurred near Attu Station in the Aleutian Islands. This region is a frequent source of seismic activity due to the rapid subduction of the Pacific Plate. In mainland Alaska, several smaller crustal quakes, 1.3 to 2.9, were recorded near the Tyonek and Burwash Landing, consistent with the region's high background seismicity. Now let's go back to New Zealand, where we had the 5.3, which was a 5.6, so let's get that right. A magnitude 5.3, 5.6 struck south of Bluff, New Zealand, near the Macquarie Ridge. This area is a major oceanic transform fault that marks the boundary between the Australian and Pacific plates. So, for today, total earthquakes have been 2.0 and above, 475. The largest event was a 6.1 in Indonesia. Total energy released was equivalent to approximately 31,362 tons of TNT. Seismic activity is a normal part of Earth's dynamics. If you live in an active zone, ensure your go bag is ready and your heavy furniture is secured. Also make sure you got shoes where you can get to them. So as we move on over here to the United States, so let's go to the United States now. Our big beautiful United States, we are going to pull up a different map. We are going to the interactive real-time map here, which often forgets to add quakes. Over the last 24 hours, the United States has experienced moderate seismic activity. While no major damaging earthquakes occurred in the mainland today, Significant tremors were recorded in the Aleutian Islands, and several felt events were reported across the western and central United States. The top events in the past 24 hours were a 5.3 Attu Station, Alaska. It occurred March 2nd, and it was 10 kilometers deep. There was a 5.2 in the Bering Sea, Aleutians in Alaska. It was on March 3rd, and it was 10 kilometers deep, March 3rd being today. A 3.5 in Pinnacles, California on March 2nd. It was 10.9 kilometers deep. There was a 3.3 in Ratliff City, Oklahoma. It occurred on March 1st, and it was 5 kilometers deep. There was a 3.0 in Nanwalek, Alaska on March 2nd, and it was 71.4 kilometers deep. And there was a 2.9 in Marston, Missouri yesterday, and it was 9.3 kilometers deep. So in Alaska, the Aleutian Island chain, Alaska continues to be the most active state. So as we look over here, a magnitude 5.3 struck near Attu Station, followed by a 5.2 in the Bering Sea. These are deep water subduction events. While they are powerful, their distance from populated centers means they rarely cause damage, but are a reminder of the massive tectonic forces at work in the Aleutian Trench. In California, Central Coast and southern clusters here, so we can see how busy it is here. In Pinnacles, there was a 3.5, a notable tremor that occurred near Pinnacles National Park. This area is close to the San Andreas fault system and frequently experiences modern crustal shifting. In San Ramon, there was a swarm. Over the last 48 hours, the San Ramon area has seen a cluster of small events, 2.8 to 3.2. While minor, these are often felt by local residents due to their shallow depth. Negative 7 kilometers in depth to negative 9 kilometers in depth. In the Inland Empire, several microquakes, 1.0 to 1.8, were recorded near Loma Linda and Fontana, which is a typical background activity for this region. In the central United States, which is here, US, Nebraska, Missouri. Nebraska recently had an unusual magnitude 4.1 that occurred near Cowles, Nebraska. Experts are monitoring this area as it is relatively rare for the region to see multiple 3.0 events in such a short window. In the New Madrid zone, a magnitude 2.9 struck near Marston, Missouri. This is located within the New Madrid seismic zone, the most active area in the United States east of the Rockies. In Nevada, and as we can see, we're still having a swarm going on here, a series of mysterious or unexpected tremors has been reported near Tonopah, close to former nuclear test sites. Magnitudes have ranged from 2.5 to 3.9. While likely natural tectonic adjustments, the proximity to historical sites often draws significant public and scientific interest. So, daily here for in the United States, the total U.S. quakes of 2.0 and above were 42. The most active state for earthquakes was Alaska. Felt reports for over 500 plus individual Did You Feel It submissions to the USGS in the last 24 hours, primarily from California and Nebraska. In the United States, the most common injury during an earthquake is from falling objects. Remember to drop, cover, and hold on. Do not run outside during shaking. And we're going to South America now. Whee! South America. This South America because, you know, I forgot Mexico. Oops. But hey, there's no quakes in Mexico according to the USGS. Oops. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's go to Mexico. Let's see if I can pull up my data. I need to figure my map here. I'm trying to find the map. I might be able to do it this way. Hang on. I'm getting my map. Yeah, hang on, you guys. I'm sorry. Do it this way. Nope. Okay, got it. Yay! If I can remember how to pull this one up, let's go. Okay, so these are all the earthquakes here for today. And as of today, Mexico has experienced its usual baseline of seismic activity, with several low to moderate tremors recorded across the southern and western regions. So let me go back over here so we can look at Mexico. So there's Mexico. Fortunately, there have been no reports of major damage or injuries resulting from today's activity. Most of the recorded events are consistent with ongoing aftershock sequences following the significant 6.5 earthquake that struck San Marcos, Guerrero earlier this year. I believe that was on January 2nd. For recent seismic activity for today, we can look on here. We can see that there has been a 4.2, 193 kilometers southwest of Chihuahua, Jalisco, and it was 10 kilometers deep, listed as a 4.1. There has been a 3.2, 26 kilometers northeast of Manzanillo, Colima. It was 9.3 kilometers deep. There was a 4.1, 8 kilometers southwest of San Marcos, Guerrero. It was 6.9 kilometers deep. And there was a 4.2, 9 kilometers southwest of San Marcos, Guerrero. It was 11.7 kilometers deep. So as we're looking on here, we can see there was a 4.1, a 3.3, a 3.9, a 3.6, 3.2, 2.9, 3.4, 3.2, 2.6, and a 3. And of course, there are about 3 pages worth of earthquakes. Here's the 4.2 there. And then we can see we had a 4 and a 4.1. These are all 1/3/2026. So Mexico has had quite a few earthquakes today. Guerrero remains the most active area. The SSN, which is the site we're on, continues to monitor thousands of aftershocks, over 7,500 to date, from January 2nd event. Most of today has ranged between 3.0 and 4.2. Jalisco and Colima had a moderate 4.2, which occurred off the coast of Jalisco early this morning, while felt in some coastal areas, the distance from shore prevented any significant impact. Chiapas and Oaxaca had routine low magnitude tremors under 3.5 and were noted near the Pichulacola and the Pinaptepa National Park. The frequency of tremors today is largely attributed to the readjustment of Earth's crust following the major January earthquake. Experts from the UNAM note that because the Guerrero Gap is a high-tension subduction zone, frequent aftershocks are expected to continue for several months. Authorities there recommend keeping your emergency backpack ready and staying tuned to official channels like the Seismological MX on X or real-time alerts. So now we're going to go on to the rest of South America here. Today, South America has experienced low to moderate seismic activity, with most events concentrated along the high active corridor of the Andes Mountains. There have been no reports of significant damage or injuries in the region within the last 24 hours. There was a 5.1 in Calama, Antofagasta, Chile. It was 110 kilometers deep, and it occurred at 2:40:14 UTC time. There was a 4.9 in Abolades, Colombia. It was at 184 kilometers in depth, and it occurred at 5:12 UTC time. There was a 4.5 in Hosco, Atacama, Chile. It was 22 kilometers deep, and it occurred at 7:02:40 UTC time. There was also a 3.8 in Los Santos, Santander, Colombia. It was 148 kilometers deep, and it happened at 9:15:33 UTC time. Chile remains the most seismically active country in the region. This is Chile here. The magnitude 5.1 near Calama occurred at a depth of 110 kilometers. Because of this depth, the energy was widely dispersed, resulting in light shaking felt near Antofagasta region, but no structural damage. A shallower 4.1 near Hosco was felt more sharply by coastal residents, but was too small to trigger tsunami concerns. In Colombia, the activity has been centered around the Santander Nest, one of the most active intermediate depth seismic sources in the world. The 4.9 in Abolades and the 3.1 in Los Santos are classic examples of subduction-related tension as the Nazca and Caribbean plates interact with the South American plate. These quakes are rarely damaging due to their extreme depth, often greater than 140 kilometers. In Argentina, near Calingasta, a magnitude 4.5 was recorded. This area bordering Chile frequently experiences spillover activity from the subduction of the Nazca plate. Residents in San Juan province reported minor swaying of hanging objects, but no impacts on infrastructure were noted. And this is Argentina here. So we have some quakes here. It's a 4.3, that's a different day. And that one was on the 1st. And we have one up here. And that one was on the 28th. There was a 4.5 that was recorded today, and I am not seeing it. So let me see here. So this is Chile over here, but I am not seeing it reported on this map. However, let's see here. I have the earthquake map open. So let's see here. Let's go over here to this one. There's a 3.1 that occurred today. A 3.1 that occurred today. A 3.1 that occurred today. 3.1. I am not seeing 4.0 here or 4.5. Hang on, maybe it's up here. Ah, there's a 3.1. 4.0, that was 2.3, so that's today. A 2.6, that's Argentina, and the 3.0. So here is our 4 right there. All right, so today's activity has been relatively mild compared to the start of the year. South America is still recovering from the massive 7.4 offshore earthquake near Ushuaia, Argentina, or Drake Passage, earlier this year, which triggered brief tsunami evacuations. Geologists are currently monitoring the northern Chilean coast, Atacama region, for signs of potential seismic gap release, as that area has seen a slight uptick in 4.0 tremors this month. In many Andean cities, seismic building codes are strict. If you are in a high rise during a tremor, stay away from glass windows and do not use elevators. Now we will go on to Russia, Indonesia, and Japan. So let's head to Russia, Indonesia, and Japan. We're going over here. Today has been a high activity day for the Pacific Ring of Fire, as we can see, with all 3 requested regions recording significant seismic events. Indonesia saw the most powerful tremor, while Japan is currently managing a notable swarm of moderate earthquakes. In Indonesia, they had a 6.1. The largest earthquake of the day globally occurred in the Indonesian archipelago. The impact was strong shaking that was felt in Aceh and northern Sumatra provinces, including Medan. So let's go over here to Indonesia. Let's see if we can find this earthquake. That's 2.7. Why am I clicking the wrong one here? I keep clicking the wrong one. That's a 3.0. That's the 6.2 right there. Well, it's 6.2. They've listed it as a 6.2. However, yeah, they've got it at 15 kilometers in depth here on EMSC. So, anyways, I'm assuming that it upgraded, but this one here is by EMSC. There was no tsunami warnings that were issued. USGS issued a green alert and indicating a low likelihood of major casualties or widespread structural damage, though local residents reported several seconds of swaying. So in Japan, we are going to Japan now. Japan has been the most active region by volume today, particularly in the southern islands. A powerful magnitude 6.0 struck late yesterday, and that was followed by a 4.6 earthquake earlier today. These occurred in a remote maritime region, resulting in no land-based damage. So I'm believing we're going to look here real quick. I'm going to find these earthquakes. There's 5.0, 4.9, 4.9 there. We have some offshore here. So 4.3, that's Bonin Islands. 4.8, Volcano Islands. And the 5.3, Pagan region, North Mariana Islands. Myokajima, there's swarm. A persistent swarm of earthquakes is currently impacting the East China Sea near Harare and Myokajima. Today's largest was a 5.6. It was followed by several events ranging from 4.9 to 5.0. While these are mostly sea quakes, they have been felt by residents in the Okinawa prefecture. Japan's high building standards have prevented any reports of damage from this ongoing activity. So let's go to Russia now. We're moving on up to Russia. Russia has nothing listed here. Okay, so their activity in Russia today is centered along the Kuril-Kamchatka arc, one of the most seismically active zones in the world. They had a magnitude 5.1, and it was at a depth of 41.4 kilometers deep. I am surprised it is not listed on here, but hey. This was a typical subduction zone event where the Pacific plate slides beneath the Oshkosh microplate. It was preceded by smaller tremors of 4.6 and 4.8 near Vilyushink over the last 24 hours. Given the remote location of the epicenter in the North Pacific, no damage or tsunamis resulted from this event. So, as we're looking at the earthquakes today, there was an earthquake in Indonesia, 6.1, 6.2, Sinabang, Sumatra. Japan, 5.6, Myokajima, Guerrero. Russia, 5.1, Ozornovsky, Kamchatka. Japan had a 5.0, Harare, Okinawa. Now we will go on to New Zealand, but we are going to look at New Zealand's own map for this. So we're going over here, and you can see the 5.6 here. New Zealand marked it as 5.6 and not a 5.3. According to EMSC, it was a 5.3. So New Zealand has experienced a notably active day, particularly in the offshore regions to the south and north. While several moderate to strong quakes have been recorded, there have been no reports of significant damage to the North or the South Islands. In the past 24 hours, a 5.3 struck off South Bluff, Macquarie Ridge at 12:55 a.m. New Zealand Daylight Time at 10 kilometers in depth. Then there was a 4.9 Kermadec Islands north of New Zealand, 8:23 a.m. It was 33 kilometers in depth. Then a 4.2 northeast of Wakatani at 9:37 p.m. It was 33 kilometers in depth. There was a 3.3 northwest of Wanaka at 3:52 a.m. It was 5 kilometers in depth. Then a 2.9 north of Deroa at 7:31 p.m. It was 27 kilometers in depth. Now, these are the magnitudes that are given. However, when you are looking at GeoNet, you have to look at GeoNet for the correct sizes, as they've had 4.0 and other earthquakes that are parts of these. Here's the 5.6 that occurred. Instead of a 5.3, it is listed as a 5.6. Then they've had a 3.8 instead of a 3.3. All right, so anyways, you guys, that's for New Zealand. And the magnitude 5.3 event that occurred early on March 4th local time in New Zealand, falling within current 24-hour global monitoring. So that would be March 4th in New Zealand and March 3rd in the United States. So if we're looking at the Macquarie Ridge 5.3, 5.6, the strongest activity was recorded approximately 300 kilometers south-southwest of Bluff. Let's do this as a full screen map here. So we can see the whole of all the quakes here. This magnitude 5.3 quake occurred along the Macquarie Ridge, a major plate boundary between the Australian and Pacific plates. Due to its distance from the coast, shaking was not widely felt on the mainland and no tsunami threat was generated. For the Bay of Plenty, which is up here, and East Cape, Wakatani, a moderate 4.2 tremor occurred late this evening deep beneath the ocean floor northeast of Wakatani. In Tarawa, they had a 2.9, a weak classified quake was felt by residents in the East Cape region. This area is part of Hikurangi subduction zone, which is the most active source of seismic activity in New Zealand. In the southern Alps, Wanaka, there was a 3.3. A shallow magnitude 3.3 earthquake struck near Wanaka early this morning. While small, its shallow depth of 5 kilometers meant it was felt quite sharply by local residents as a brief jolt. This activity is common in the Alpine fault region as the mountains continue to be pushed upward by tectonic pressure. In Wellington and Cook Strait, which is this area here, the capital region remained relatively quiet today, with only minor unnoticeable microquakes of 1.2 to 1.7 recorded near Wellington and Seddon. These are standard background adjustments for the area. So the daily summary for New Zealand would be 65, all magnitudes, total quakes recorded. Felt events are 4, Wanaka, Tarawa, and offshore Wakatani. And tsunami risks for the area were 0. Now, as we go on to Australia, which is over here, we're going to go to this map here. You see there's still no earthquakes listed here. However, there have been earthquakes. And let me see, no, wrong map. Let's go here. Maybe we can pull up the ones in Australia here. No, we can't. But hey, Australia has experienced a relatively active day for interplate seismic standards, with 2 notable magnitude 3+ tremors recorded in Victoria and Western Australia. While these events were widely felt by local residents, no structural damage has been reported. There was a 3.3 in Katanning, Western Australia at 7:02 a.m. That would be Western Australia time, 1.3 kilometers deep. A 3.3 in Ararat, Pyrenees, Victoria at 1:21 p.m., 10 kilometers deep, and a 2.4 in Mansfield, Victoria at 4:10 a.m. and it was 8 kilometers deep. Western Australia, in the Katanning strike of the 3.8 earthquake, which occurred early this morning, just 15 kilometers north of Nowangarup and 38 kilometers southeast of Katanning. The quake was very shallow, approximately 1.3 kilometers, causing weak to light shaking that could be felt across the wheat belt region. Residents in Guanarup and Pelinup reported distinct vibrations and rattling of windows. This region is part of the Southwest Seismic Zone, the most active seismic area in Australia, known for frequent shallow crustal adjustments. In Victoria, Ararat, and Pyrenees, they had a 3.3. Shaking was primarily felt in Ararat, Landsborough, and Staywell. This follows a general trend of increased minor activity in Victoria over the last few years. While much smaller than the 2021 Woods Point event, today's tremor served as a reminder of the tectonic stresses within the Australian plate. In Victoria, Mansfield, the 2.4 earthquake, aftershock or independent tremor, was recorded near Mansfield. This area continues to show background activity following historical large events in the Victorian Alps. The daily summary for Australia was a total of 3 quakes, 2.0 and greater. Approximately 150 plus did you feel it submissions to Geoscience Australia today. And what we're going to do right now is I'm going to try to attempt to pull up Geoscience Australia to get earthquakes so y'all can see them. Let's see here. Can we look at them this way? Let's see. No. Let's go this way. There we go. Now we can see the earthquakes here. So I want to look here, and these earthquakes are probably going to say the 4th. However, that's 227, so that's not it. Let's see here. How do I close this? Oops, there. Let's see here. Legend. That's the legend. Okay, so this one was 227. I'm trying to find the right ones, you guys, so bear with me. That was 227 too. We would find them. Okay, so I'm believing that the darker ones are the ones we're looking for. Wait a minute. Red. Okay, there we go. I'm looking for the right ones. Red. So these are the ones that happened today. 3/3/2026. Which would also be yesterday. And 3/3/2026. This is yesterday in Australia. So, just so you know, I am still doing the update for these earthquakes because, of course, they're not going to make it onto the EMSC except for the 2nd. So today is the 3rd, so I do the earthquake updates for today, even though they occurred yesterday in Australia. It's interesting, right? Okay, so that's Australia. Like this. Shows all these earthquakes around here too. So here you see the 5.2 which occurred. And here you see, and they have it listed here as a 5.3 as well. EMSC is the only, let me see, GeoNet is the only one listing this earthquake as a 5.6. So, just so you know, very interesting. Okay, so we got that. Oops, let me go back to the map that I was using. I'm looking for the map. Okay, wait, is this one? Right. What happened to all my quakes? They all disappeared. Whoa. Let me refresh. Okay, there we go. Okay, wow. Whew. Alrighty, so when we're looking over here, Australia sits in the middle of a tectonic plate. So we don't get the massive subduction quakes seen in Indonesia or Japan. Instead, our quakes are interplate, caused by Australian plate being squeezed as it moves north at about 7 centimeters per year. So now we're going to go to Thailand, India, and China. So let's move up over here. And we have India, China, Thailand. So right here, this is Thailand. All right. So seismic activity across these 3 nations has remained stable to low today. While a powerful magnitude 6.1 to 6.2 earthquake struck nearby in Indonesia, its impact on the mainland of Thailand and India was negligible. In Thailand, after a small series of small tremors in northern Thailand over the weekend, the region has been quiet today. The largest activity, no earthquakes above a 2.0, were recorded in the Thai borders today. The country is still monitoring the Chiang Rai region following a shallow magnitude 3.1 that occurred on February 28th. Residents in the Phan district remain on alert for minor aftershocks, but today has seen zero significant movement. The 6.1 Asa earthquake in Indonesia this morning was monitored by the Thai Meteorological Department, but no tremors were reported in southern Thailand and no tsunami threat was posed to the Andaman coast. In India has recorded no major inland earthquakes today, with activity limited to typical background micro-seismicity in the Himalayan arc. The National Center for Seismology, NCS, in New Delhi actively tracks today's M6.1 in Indonesia. While the quake was powerful, it did not cause felt tremors in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands or the Indian mainland. Minor crustal adjustments, M2.0 to M2.8, have been noted in the Jashmath region of Uttarakhand over the past 48 hours, but these are considered standard for high-pressure Himalayan collision zone. So now we look at China. In China, seismic activity today is concentrated in its western provinces, specifically Xinjiang and Tibet, which are common sites for deep earthquake adjustments. Western China, small-scale tremors of 3.0 to 3.8 were recorded in Taishan mountain range. These are frequent occurrences in this sparsely populated region and did not result in damage reports. In the Sichuan, Yunnan area, these historically volatile provinces have reported no significant events today. In the Taiwan region, while not on the mainland, a magnitude 4.9 was recorded in the East China Sea, near the Ryukyu Islands. Shaking was not reported on the Chinese mainland. So, if we're looking at things, Thailand had no notable events, is quiet, and they are monitoring northern faults. In India, the Himalayan microquakes were lower than 3.0 and had normal background activity. In China, Xinjiang crustal shifts, they had a magnitude 3.5 and routine tectonic movement. Okay, so while not seismic, it is worth noting for those in Thailand and India today, March 3rd, 2026, coincides with total lunar eclipse. In Thailand, this is being observed alongside the Maka Buka holiday. There is no scientific link between the eclipse and today's seismic activity in the region, despite local folklore. Now we're going to move on to the Middle East. Let's see here. I'm going to the Middle East, which is here in these areas. And I may pull up this map. Let me see here. I may pull this one up. Yeah, I'll do this one in a minute. So we're looking here. The Middle East has seen notable seismic activity with a moderate earthquake striking South Iran. Let's see here. I believe this one is it here. The event has drawn significant international attention due to its proximity to sensitive infrastructure and current regional geopolitical climate. The most significant earthquakes in the region today occurred in southern Iran. Magnitude 4.3, it was near Kanj and Garash in the Fars province. It occurred at 10:24 a.m. local time or 6:54 UTC time. It was 10 kilometers depth, which was shallow. The impact from it was shaking was felt clearly across rural parts of Fars province. While the tremor was shallow, which often increases the intensity of surface shaking, there have been no official reports of casualties or major structural damage. Seismologists from the USGS and local networks have confirmed this as a natural tectonic event within Zagro's fold thrust belt. Despite social media speculation regarding nearby facilities, the seismic signature was consistent with routine crustal stress release and not an explosion. Now, as we look at Turkey and the Levant, we can also see that Kabul over here in Afghanistan had a 4.1 today. And Kashmir, Xinjiang border, this is one back here, was a 2.8. So these are the China border here. Now we are moving into these areas here. A magnitude 4.4 earthquake occurred near Sinabang, Adiyaman province. The area remains seismically active following the major 2023 event. Today's tremor was felt by local residents but did not cause new damage. It is classified as part of the ongoing adjustment of the East Anatolian fault zone. So let's see if we can find this large 4. As Turkey has had a lot of earthquakes today, so I'm not seeing it, but I'm looking for it. It'll be one of the big ones. So it's there somewhere. This is Turkey. Here, I was thinking up here because that was a bigger one. But anyways, as we look here at Israel and the Dead Sea, I'm going to pull up Israel and the Dead Seas quakes and stuff for today because I have all of these on here. While no major quakes were recorded today, the Israel Seismic Network has been monitoring a minor swarm in the Jordan Rift Valley over the last 48 hours, magnitudes ranging from 2.0 to 3.4. Activity in this region remains with normal background levels for the Dead Sea transformed fault system. So we're going to look here, and I'm going to look at these real quick. We will look at these through with you. So as we're looking, this is the earthquake for today. It was a 3.4, which is down here. And actually, this one was for yesterday. So I'm not seeing any for today, but this is for yesterday. 2, 3, wait, no, this is today. It's backwards. Sorry. Or is it yesterday? Interesting. So let's refresh. Maybe if I refresh. No. Okay, so anyways, these are the ongoing quakes here. What is this one? 223. I still have this one as 3.2. So this was yesterday, but it's activity that is still going on. I do not have the newest ones in the Jordan Rift Valley, except these are the ones that have occurred in the last 48 hours. So they have a 2.0 to 3.4, and that is listing the 3.4 right here, which has occurred in the last 48 hours. Just north of the Middle East region, a magnitude 4.4 tremor hit Sochi, Russia. We'd already talked about Russia. This quake was felt across the border in parts of Georgia and the northern edge of the Middle East tectonic influence. No damage was reported. So when we go back and look, there was a 4.3 in Kanaj, Garesh, Iran. It was 4.3. There was a 4.4 in Sinabang, Turkey, and a 3.4 in the Jordan Rift Valley. It is important to note that today's seismic event in Iran occurred during a period of heightened regional unrest and tension. Local authorities and international monitors, including the IAEA, have maintained a vigilant watch. However, as of this report, all recorded tremors have been verified as purely geological in nature. Okay, so now we're going to go to Europe. Let's move on here. We're getting out of Turkey and we're going to Europe. We're going to Europe. Okay. Europe has experienced low to moderate seismic activity today. While no major destructive earthquakes occurred on the continent, notable tremors were felt in Croatia, Greece, and near the Russian Black Sea coast, which geologically bridges Europe and Asia. So when we're looking at the Black Sea, Caucasus, and Sochi, a magnitude 4.4 earthquake struck approximately 21 kilometers southwest of Sochi. The tremor was felt distinctly in the resort city and surrounding areas of the Caucasus. Sochi Mayor Andrei Poshin confirmed via telegram that there were no reports of structural damage or casualties. The quake's depth, 35 kilometers deep, helped mitigate surface impact. In the Balkans and Croatia, a magnitude 2.9 earthquake occurred near Sisak, a region still sensitive following the major 2020 Petrinja earthquake. Despite the low magnitude, the shallow depth, 5 kilometers, led to over 15 felt reports within minutes. Residents described it as a brief, sharp jolt that rattled windows but caused no damage. So, when we're looking over here, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit off here. We're going over here to the Mediterranean Sea, right here. In the Aegean Sea, Mediterranean Sea, this is the Aegean Sea here. A magnitude 2.9 struck 27 kilometers east of Eruption, Crete. So, I'm looking here. Hang on a second. We'll see if we can find Crete. Crete, where are you? There we go. Nope, that one's listed as a 2.3. Now it's today, right there. This routine event for the Hellenistic arc between the African plate subducts between the Aegean Sea plate. It was felt lightly on the eastern coast of Crete. I can't read that. Okay. Now we're going to talk just a little bit about Iceland, but we will come back to Iceland. So hang on, let's move over here. And this, of course, we're not seeing any earthquakes there. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to pull up a map for Iceland, because I'll need it in a few minutes anyway. Okay. So this is for Iceland here. All right. I don't have a map. Wish there was a map, but hey, I get what I get. All right. Icelandic monitoring stations have detected a minor swarm of microquakes beneath the Katla volcano. So let's go over here. I want to put in Katla volcano. Approximately 23 earthquakes were recorded in a 14-hour window, with the largest reaching 2.0. Oops, I think we came in really deep here. This is Katla. While Katla is one of Iceland's most dangerous volcanoes, the Icelandic Meteorological Office currently views this as a standard geothermal tectonic noise rather than an imminent eruption signal. Now we are going back to Italy. Whee! Let's go to Italy. Let's go to Italy. Because we just jumped off here and ran away. Okay, what is Italy? Oops. I'm lost. Where's my boot? Okay, let's go back the other way. Italy. Oh, no wonder I'm not on the right map. Oops. Okay. Oh, I knew I was a little lost here. Esh, esh, esh. Esh? No. No, no, no. 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 Yes. Okay, let's go here. Alright. Okay, so Italy. While Italy remained relatively quiet seismically today, it made news in the tech sector. A Milan-based firm, ISAAC, Seismic, announced and I'm going to say $14 million investment round to expand their active mass damper technology. The system uses AI-driven weights on rooftops to counteract earthquakes swaying in older buildings without needing invasive structural reinforcements. And 1 second here. I need to find my other page real quick. Okay, so seismic activity in Italy remains at a low to moderate background level. While there have been several small tremors recorded over the last 24 to 48 hours, no major damage or injuries have been reported. A magnitude 3.3 earthquake occurred near Veroli at a depth of 10 kilometers. Although the shaking was described by locals as distinct and scary, the mayor of Veroli confirmed there was no structural damage or injuries. In Campi Flegrei, the volcano area near Pozzuoli continues to see minor Brady system activity. A magnitude 3.5 tremor was recorded on February 28th, followed by smaller microquakes, magnitude 2.3 and below, into early March. Authorities remain in a state of routine monitoring. In Sicily, minor tremors have been localized near Rietano, magnitude 2.7, and in the southern Tyrrhenian Sea. These are typical for the region and were largely unfelt by the general population. So in Veroli, they had a 3.3, it was 10 kilometers deep and felt strongly, no damage reported. In Rietano, they had a 2.7, it was 6 kilometers deep, it was instrumental and no impact. In Campi Flegrei, they had a 2.3, it was 3 kilometers and part of an ongoing volcanic monitoring. In Tredozio, they had a 2.0. It was 2.8 kilometers. 28 kilometers deep and minor crustal movement. No tsunami warnings or emergency alerts are active for the Italian peninsula or islands. So let's take a peek here at these earthquakes. This was today, it was a 2.0. This was today, it was a 2.1. This was today, it was a 2.5. And this was today, and it was a 2.6. And now we're going to move on to France. And today's mainland France has remained seismically quiet, with no major earthquakes recorded. While the country has experienced a few minor tremors earlier in the week, current activity is limited to micro-seismicity and standard industrial events. Notable earthquake events in the last 48 hours are a 2.9 Les Sables d'Olonne, Vindy, March 1st at 4 o'clock. It was 10 kilometers deep. There was a 2.4 Ilrich, Basran, March 1st at 11 p.m. It was 12 kilometers deep. There was a 2.6 yesterday at Huron, and it was 5 kilometers deep. There was 1.2 yesterday in the Pyrenees Atlantics, and it was 14 kilometers deep. So as we're looking here, they also had a 2.3 today. They had a 1.9 today, and they had a 2.1 today. So those are earthquakes that have come in since I have sat down. This is the 1.432, so there was the 2.2 there. And the 1.7 here. And this is in Spain. They had a 1.6 yesterday. Also, yesterday in Spain, they had a 1.8. Yes, today in Spain, they've had a 1.6. And for today, they've had a 2.7 in the Strait of Gibraltar. And a 2.7 Strait of Gibraltar. And that's today as well. All right. So the Pyrenees is the most frequent activity continues to be in the Pyrenees along the border with Spain. A very small 1.2 tremor occurred near Pau late yesterday evening. These microquakes are common in the region as the Iberian and Eurasian plates continue their slow, ancient collision. A magnitude 2.9 event near Les Sables d'Olonne on March 1st remains the most significant recent event for the region. It was felt lightly by some residents on the coast, but no damage has been reported. This area occasionally sees interplate tremors that are often felt more widely due to the solid nature of the crust in western France. In central eastern France, a magnitude 2.6 struck near Villefranche-sur-Saône yesterday, located in the Rhone Valley. This area sits near several smaller fault lines. The tremor was too small to cause damage, but was recorded clearly by the research of surveillance seismic in France. And let me see, total mainland quakes reported so far was a 1.0 plus 0. Status quiet and tsunami risk was none. Most seismic events recorded in France during the day are actually quarry blasts. So a lot of people need to know that. Explosions related to mining and construction. These are typically between 1.0 and 2.0 and are easily identified by seismologists due to their specific wave patterns and shallow depth of 0 kilometers. So now we're going to go to Iceland. And I'm going to pull up Iceland here. And as of today, Iceland is currently in a state of high volcanic vigilance. While there is no major lava spewing eruption occurring at this moment, the Icelandic Meteorological Office has issued critical updates regarding significant magma accumulation and localized earthquake swarms. 1 second. The primary focus remains on Rekjanes Peninsula, specifically the Svartsengi and Sunker crater row. Magma accumulation is approximately 22 million cubic meters of magma have now accumulated beneath Svartsengi since the last eruptive activity. The volume is significant as it matches the threshold that triggered previous eruptions in the area. The IMO states that a magma intrusion or a new eruption along the Sunker crater row is the most likely scenario in the coming days or weeks. The hazard assessment was recently extended and is valid through today, March 3rd. Experts are watching for fountain activity or new fissure openings similar to the December 2023 and July 2025 events. Keflavik International Airport remains fully operational. Volcanic activity in this region typically involves localized lava flows rather than the massive ash clouds seen in 2010. Seismicity is currently the leading indicator for the next volcanic activity. The Katla swarm, a notable swarm with 23 earthquakes, occurred beneath the Katla volcano within the last 14 hours. The largest reached magnitude 2.0. While Katla is one of Iceland's most dangerous volcanoes, this activity is currently classified as a possible earthquake swarm, related to geothermal or tectonic shifts rather than an imminent eruption. In the Rekjanes Ridge Swarm, an earthquake swarm was recently recorded near Eldey Island, with the largest quake reaching an 3.4. This is part of the ongoing stress changes caused by the magma bulging at nearby Svartsengi. So the total quakes for Iceland, 2.0 and greater, are 12. Largest events was a 3.4 offshore Rekjanes Ridge. Focus areas are Katla, Svartsengi, and the northern volcanic zone of Bardabunga. So let's look and see how this matches up with the earthquakes that have occurred today. And we're looking at all the ones for 3-3. And as you can see, we've gone from here, let me see, that's 3-3. So we start here all the way up. So those are all the quakes that have occurred today. I just wish that there was a map that I could look at. Oh, there is a map. Oh, let's see here. Here's the map, you guys. Wait, that doesn't make it open though. Oops. But all the reds are the earthquakes that are occurring right now. So those are the maps. All right. And we're going to look at this. Svartsengi is inflating with 22, I forgot what it is, magma accumulated. The risk level is high, eruption likely. In Katla, there is swarming of earthquakes, 23 quakes in 14 hours, and the risk level is moderate. In Sunker, the status is quiet, no active lava today, and risk level high, likely vent site. In Keflavik Airport, the status is green, they're at normal operations, and risk level is low. Just a note, if you're currently in Iceland, avoid the restricted zones near Grindavik and the Sunker craters. Even without active lava, the ground is unstable, and high concentrations of volcanic gases, or SO2, can accumulate in low-lying areas. So it'd be better to avoid the area. All right, so now we're going to go to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is here. This is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge that runs down through here. And the Mid-Atlantic Ridge has shown significant tectonic movement over the last 48 hours. As major divergent plate boundary where the Eurasian, North American, African, and South American plates are pulling apart, this region frequently experiences moderate to strong sea quakes. So when we're looking at events that have happened in the last 24 hours, on March 1st, there was a 5.1, March 1st, there was a 5.2 north of Ascension Island. It was 10 kilometers deep. On March 1st, there was a 5.1 northern mid-Atlantic ridge, and it was 10 kilometers deep. On March 1st, there was a 5.2, and it was 10 kilometers deep. And yesterday, March 2nd, there was a 5.1 central mid-Atlantic ridge, and it was 10 kilometers deep. So when we're looking, a magnitude 5.1 earthquake struck the central sector early yesterday. The epicenter was roughly 900 kilometers north of Fernando de Noronha, Brazil. The impact, as is typical for the Mar, the quake occurred at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers. While powerful enough to be recorded by global sensors, its extreme distance from land meant it was not felt by any coastal populations and no tsunami was generated. With the 5.2 northern mid-Atlantic ridge, the northern sector west of Azores recorded a magnitude 5.2 tremor on Sunday. This event occurred near the Triple Junction where the three tectonic plates meet. A follow-up magnitude 5.1 was recorded almost simultaneously in a nearby segment of the ridge. This doublet event is common in rift zones where the crust is thin and under constant tension. In the southern sector, Ascension Island, a magnitude 5.2 earthquake was recorded late on March 1st. This area of the ridge is known for transform faults, fracture zones that often produce earthquakes in the 5.0 to 6.0 range. Today's relative calm follows a period of heightened activity across the ridge. The Australian and Pacific plates are currently moving at higher velocities, which can occasionally telegraph stress through the global mantle, influencing the slower moving Atlantic boundaries. The Mar year-to-date has already seen an M6.9 earlier in 2026, making this as an above-average year for seismic energy release along the Atlantic basin. While we are looking, the tsunami risk is none. Mid-Atlantic ridge earthquakes are primarily divergent, pulling apart or strike slips sliding past, which rarely displace enough water vertically to create tsunamis. So let's take a look at Canada, and we're going to open Canada. Let's find one Canada. I have it open. There it is. All right, so we're going to take a look at Canada. I'm going to make this a large map, easier for y'all to see. There we go. While today remains still, the following tremors were the most recent significant events recorded by Earthquakes Canada. There was a 2.2 La Capitale, Quebec on February 24th, and it was felt by local residents. There was a 4.2 Burwash Landing, Yukon on February 13th. It was a deep crustal event not felt. There was a 3.1 Rocky Mountain House, Alberta on February 11th, and it was industry related and it was felt. There was a 4.4 Port Hardy, British Columbia. It was offshore on February 8th, and it was an oceanic adjustment with no threat. So, as we are looking today, I want to look at one more thing. I'm going to pull this up. Give me 1 second. Where's my mouse? My mouse just disappeared. So I want to see one thing real quick. Whoops. So, since we're looking for earthquakes today, there has been no earthquakes in Canada today. Oops. Cancel. Oops. Let me do this right. Here we go. Okay, got this up. All right, so y'all can see there has been no earthquakes in Canada today, but we are going over some important information. So, Western Canada and territories, Yukon, Alaska border, a magnitude 5.3 earthquake struck near Attu Station, Alaska, late yesterday. While this was far to the west of the Aleutians, seismic stations in the Yukon and British Columbia recorded the energy. In British Columbia, the coast has remained calm today. This is British Columbia over here. The most recent notable activity was a magnitude 4.1 near Sydney, British Columbia, recorded earlier this year, which reminded residents of the ongoing pressure in the Cascadia subduction zone. Alberta, the prairies, Swan Hills, Rocky Mountain House. No new events were recorded today. This region has seen a cluster of induced or industry-related seismicity over the last month, including a magnitude 4.6 near Swan Hills in early February. Regulators continue to monitor pressure injection sites in these areas. In eastern Canada, Quebec and Ontario, so here is Quebec and here is Ontario, St. Lawrence Valley, following the magnitude 2.2 near La Pocatière last week, the Charlevoix seismic zone has returned to its baseline level of microactivity 1.0 and below. In southern Ontario, no tremors were reported today. The magnitude 3.7 near Orillia from late January remains the most significant event for the region this year, which caused widespread felt reports, but no damage. So for Canada today, there has been 0 earthquakes. The largest regional event was a 5.3 in Attu Station, Alaska, and there is no tsunami risk. Earthquakes Canada monitors over 4,000 earthquakes every year. While only about 50 are actually felt by the public, the data helps engineers refine the National Building Codes of Canada to ensure high-rise safety in cities like Vancouver and Montreal. And so that's just a quick fact for you guys for today. Now, we are going to go to an area that I forgot to look at. So we're going to exit out of here, and we are going to the Caribbean, because I keep forgetting the Caribbean exists. So let's go down here to the Caribbean. This is the Caribbean here. Caribbean region has experienced a moderate level of seismic activity over the last 48 hours. While today has been relatively quiet from major tremors, the region is currently monitoring the aftermath of a widely felt earthquake in Jamaica and ongoing minor adjustments to the Puerto Rico Trench. So, major events in the past 48 hours are 4.6 Stony Hill, Kingston, Jamaica, which happened on March 1st at 8:38 a.m., and it was 16 kilometers deep. There was a 3.4 Hastillo, Puerto Rico on February 28th, and it happened at 11:17 p.m., and it was 45.2 kilometers deep. There was a 3.4 Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. It happened on February 28th at 10:04 p.m., and it was 17.3 kilometers deep. There was a 3.5 north of Antigua, March 1st. It happened late at night, and it was 10 kilometers deep. So, regional breakdown, Jamaica. They had a felt event on Sunday morning. A magnitude 4.6 earthquake struck approximately 10 kilometers northeast of Stony Hill. The impact from it, the tremor was felt strongly across several parishes, including Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, St. Anne, and Manchester. The UWI earthquake unit at Mona reported this as the 8th felt earthquake in Jamaica since the start of 2026. No injuries or structural damage were reported, but it has prompted renewed discussions on local earthquake preparedness. In Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, Activity in Puerto Rico Trench and the Mona Passage remains consistent with background levels. In Puerto Rico, a moderate tremor occurred north of Hatillo. This is a common location for seismic release as the North American plate subducts beneath the Caribbean plate. The size of the earthquake was a 3.4. In the Virgin Islands, minor microquakes 1.5 to 2.5 were recorded near St. Croix and Anegada, standard for the region's complex fault systems. In Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, and Haiti, a magnitude 3.4 was recorded north of Punta Cana. Seismic stations in the La Altagracia province reported no significant aftershocks today. Haiti, the southern Enriquillo Plantain Garden Fault Zone remains quiet today, with only minor instrumental readings not felt by the public. The Eastern Caribbean, Lesser Antilles, Antigua, at a 3.5, a light earthquake was reported north of Antigua. In Trinidad and Venezuela border, the UWI Seismic Research Center in Trinidad noted a magnitude 4.1 near Maturin, Venezuela, which occurred late last week. Today, the area has returned to lower level tremors of 2.0 to 2.8. There is no tsunami risk. None of the earthquakes recorded today or yesterday met the magnitude 6.0 or seafloor displacement thresholds required to generate any tsunamis. Volcanic monitoring continues to monitor Kikumjeni off of Grenada and La Soufriere, St. Vincent. There are currently no reports of unusual volcanic tremors associated with today's seismic activity. And also to note, many residents in the Caribbean observed a total lunar eclipse this morning. Whilst local social media often discusses eclipse triggering quakes, seismologists reiterate that there is no scientific evidence linking lunar alignments to increased earthquake frequency in the Caribbean. And now we're going to go one more place. We're going up to Svalbard. Let me see if I got it here. There we go. Seismic activity in Svalbard archipelago has remained very low today. No significant earthquakes 2.0 or greater have been recorded within the immediate vicinity of the islands in the last 24 hours. However, this earthquake just occurred today. There was a 2.0 in the Svalbard region, and I have it listed as a 2.9 by EMSC. It was 10 kilometers deep. The Jan Mayen region has been quiet today following recent 5.0 activity. Background levels of seismicity. Svalbard is situated in a unique tectonic position between the sable continent's crust of the Barents Sea and the active spreading ridges of the Arctic Ocean. While the region is capable of significant quakes, such as the 4.7 recorded near Longyearbyen in September 2025, today's lack of activity is well within the normal range for the archipelago. Although tectonic earthquakes are absent, Svalbard's glaciers frequently produce cryoseisms and icequakes. These are caused by glacial cracking, which is sudden fractures in the ice as glaciers move, frost heaving, rapid freezing of groundwater in soil or rock. While these events are often too small to be felt by residents in Longyearbyen, they are a constant feature of the Arctic's ambient seismic environment. The most recent major seismic energy in the broader Svalbard and Jan Mayen region occurred roughly a year ago, March 2025, when a powerful 6.5 earthquake struck near Jan Mayen Island. That event was tectonic in nature and served as a reminder of the intense pressure along the mid-Atlantic and Mons Ridge to the south and west to Svalbard. As of today, there is no tsunami risk and no infrastructure impact. The NORSAR seismic array continues to monitor for nuclear test ban compliance and local tectonic shifts. And I have a little seed of interest for you. The global seed vault in Svalbard is built deep into the permafrost of the sandstone Fjellet mountain. It was specifically engineered to withstand tectonic activity up to a magnitude 6.2 strike without compromising the integrity of the seed storage chambers. Isn't that interesting? And that is where the global seed vault is located. So we have Hawaii. Let's go to Hawaii. Let's go Hawaii. Okay. Uh-oh. What happened? Uh-oh. Why did I click back over from there? Want to go to Hawaii. Go to Hawaii. Oops. Go to Hawaii. Oh, man. We don't want to go to Hawaii. Oh, I think maybe I need to go over. Huh? There. Wait, go there. Here we are. Why does it keep doing that? Let me do this. Okay. Note, earthquakes have been updating since I have been updating, so that is why we're seeing more earthquakes. So there is more here now. Okay, so if I miss any, forgive me, because earthquakes happen while we update, so that's why I'm keeping an eye on the updated earthquakes that are occurring. Okay, for today, the Big Island of Hawaii is currently experiencing a period of elevated seismic unrest and recharging. While the latest eruption at Kilauea summit is technically paused, monitoring data suggests that the next eruptive episode is imminent. So, we've had some notable seismic events in the past 24 to 48 hours. There was a 3.9, 18 kilometers southeast of Pahala. It was March 2nd at 8:39 a.m. UTC time, although these are UTC time, you guys, 34.3 kilometers deep. A 3.3, 180 kilometers southeast of Leilani Estates. It was March 2nd at 1:57 a.m. It was 5.0 kilometers deep. 2.6, 2 kilometers north-northeast of Mountain View on March 2nd at 14:11 p.m. and it was 1.1 kilometers deep. There was a 2.2, 1 kilometer west of Volcano. It was on March 2nd at 17:20 p.m. and it was 35 kilometers deep. And then a 2.0, 8 kilometers southwest of Pahala, March 2nd, and it was at 18:34 p.m. and it was 0 kilometers deep. So, as we look at the volcano, it is currently maintaining an orange watch alert level for Kilauea. The Halima-Uma'u eruption paused on February 15th for episode 42. Since then, the summit has been steadily inflating as magma refills the shallow reservoir. The HVO models currently predict that episode 43, likely featuring lava fountaining, will begin between March 8th and March 15th, 2026. The current signals for that area, intermittent glow is visible from the south vent at night. Ground tilt meters have recorded a recovery of over 22 micro radians of inflationary tilt since the last pause began. The magnitude 3.9 near Pahala is part of an ongoing deep seismic swarm. This is not a direct indicator of eruption, rather it is related to the magma plumbing system deep beneath the island, which goes down about 30 to 40 kilometers. As magma migrates from the mantle hotspot towards the surface reservoirs of Kilauea and Mauna Loa, these quakes are often felt by residents in the Kauai district, but rarely caused damage due to their significant depth. If we're looking at earthquakes that have occurred on the Big Island today, there have been 85. Largest inland event was a 3.9 Pahala. Air quality, sulfur dioxide, SO2 emissions are currently low, but volcanic smog, may increase once the next fountaining episode begins. With episode 43 expected soon, residents with respiratory sensitivities should monitor the interagency VOG dashboard as trade winds may shift gas plumes towards populated areas. So, as I wanted to find out today, I wanted to see how many volcanoes were active today. Yes, I had to look into that. According to the Smithsonian Institute's Global Volcanism Program, which tracks these events, this level of activity is perfectly normal for our planet, as there are typically between 40 and 50 volcanoes actively erupting around the world on any given day. So, while active can mean anything from a volcano showing signs of unrest to one spewing lava, we're going to take a look at this. Active eruptions. Roughly 46 volcanoes are current in a state of continuous or intermittent eruption. Volcanoes under watch are over 100 volcanoes that are currently being closely monitored for significant unrest. Each year, between 60 and 80 different volcanoes will erupt at some point. So the volcanoes that are notable and in the news today are Kilauea. It's in Hawaii, which is part of the United States. It has an orange current status as watch and currently paused. Magma is refilling with the next fountaining episode predicted between March 8th and 15th. Svartsengi, Iceland is on high alert. Significant magma accumulation makes a new fissure eruption likely in the next coming days. Mount Etna in Sicily, Italy is active, continuing its intense 2026 phase with fresh lava flows and ash emissions visible from Catania. Great Sitkin in Alaska in the USA has an orange watch. Slow eruption of lava within the summit crater continues as it has since 2021. Semeru and Merapi in Indonesia on high alert with frequent ash venting and tremors. Indonesia remains the most active volcanic region today. And the majority of these volcanoes are located along the Ring of Fire. And if you don't know, when you're new here, let's show you where the Ring of Fire is located. So as we look here, this would be, so this here, from down here, all the way around this way is the Ring of Fire. So a horseshoe-shaped belt around the Pacific Ocean where the tectonic plates meet. Indonesia and Japan currently have the highest number of individual active volcanoes. Iceland is the most active region in the Atlantic, currently dealing with high ground deformation near the Blue Lagoon. And you guys, that is all I have for your update today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Please remember to hit that like button, comment, and if you like, share the video. Anyways, you guys, I love you. And please remember to tell someone you love them. Tomorrow's never promised. And I'll see you on the next video or live stream. Much love.